I wanted to take 2 Corinthians chapter 4. And I just sketched this out as I knew we were going to be talking about this today. 2 Corinthians chapter 4 is for those that are wanting to follow along in our video, I'd encourage you. I know, Jimmy, you put the verses up, but I'd also encourage people to have their Bibles open and open, if you would, right now to 2 Corinthians chapter 4, if you're able to, and follow along. Because what I want to do is I want to give the remainder of this video, I want to do practical application, and I want to give 18, because that's how many verses there are. We're going to do one per verse, 18 benefits of suffering for the believers, or another way we could say is 18 helps that we have in suffering for the believers. And as we're getting into this, one of the key components of this, Jimmy, is that we suffer and we grieve not as those who have no hope. So notice in that verse, it doesn't say that we don't grieve. It doesn't say that we don't suffer. We do. It's just that we do it differently. We grieve differently than those who have no hope. Because we really, really need to buy into the idea that not only are these attributes of God true, but our life is very, very short. Mm-hmm. Now, the unsaved world believes that their life is short. There's just no upside to it for them. There's a massive upside to our life being short for us. Because that means this is just, if you want to understand the way, here's a way of understanding how God sees our lives. God sees our lives as a vetting process to see who's going to reign with him for all time. God is seeing who can reign with him forever. That's the point of your life. That's the kingdom-mindedness of your life. Who is going to reign with me forever? Answer, those who place their trust in him. End of life. That is the purpose of life. Because think about it. We're getting, Jimmy, you and I have talked about that book, Chilton wrote called Paradise Restored. Mm-hmm. And think about it. Adam and Eve in the garden, you have, if you want to understand everything in the middle of the Bible, go back to Genesis 1 and 2, basically. 1, 2, and 3. Get almost all the answers to everything else. When Adam and Eve are in there, God put the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in there because it was a vetting process. Are you worthy? Are you worthy to reign on earth as my image? And when they broke that, look what happened. Death entered. They were banished for one reason. So they could not have access to the tree of life anymore. Because of that, their dying process started. That's the story. And so God is reversing that, and he's coming to restore paradise. So we have a massive benefit in suffering by being a believer. These benefits do not help unbelievers at all. So I'm going to give you one per verse here, and this is just a good Bible study exercise by itself. So what I'm going to do is read one verse and then just kind of talk about how this is going to be a benefit in suffering for the believer. Okay? That's 2 Corinthians chapter 4, and verse number 1 says this. Therefore, seeing we have this ministry, as we have received mercy, we faint not. So one of the ways that God has bolstered us is we have, as believers, we've received this ministry. Now, Paul's going to go on to explain what he means by that. But basically what Paul means by that is that we live in this physical world that is condemned and is decaying. And this ministry we have is to be a light in the darkness, to understand there's more to it than what we see. That's the ministry he's talking about. That'll be clear as we move forward. Now, we've received a couple of helps, or a lot of helps really, but we outline mercy in this first verse. We've received mercy. So just putting this first verse in perspective, your life, see your life as a ministry, a ministering to others. I am here as a servant of God. I'm an ambassador, as Paul says. I am representing a foreign idea. I'm representing a different realm. That's my job. So that's my ministry. So I'm to represent a foreign realm, a heavenly realm. And I'm going to faint through this process, Jimmy, because it's too difficult. I'm sure everybody's experienced that already. Whether it's through, like we talked about, losing a loved one or something else, I'm going to faint. I cannot do this. But in verse number 1, it tells me why that's not going to happen. Because I've been given a supernatural power. You see it in verse 1, guys? It's mercy. So I've been given this ministry to represent a heavenly realm. I would have no hope of doing that because I live in the physical, except for one thing. God's mercy has been placed on my life through the knowledge of who he is. So already we have 18 verses here. We've received mercy, number 1.
If you like this video, hit that like and subscribe button, and check out the full episode by clicking the link below.